Today I'm going to be going over and reacting to some of the DBD hot takes that you guys have. So last month I did upload a video with my DBD hot takes, and I did mention to leave in the comments down below any hot takes that you have, and I will react to them in a future video, and that video is today. Before we get into it, if you would like to leave any of your hot takes down below for me to react to in a future video, feel free to go and do that. But let's get straight on into the hot takes. So the first one is that hex totems should be blocked until the first gen is done. This is a really interesting one, and I do agree with it. It would be a good way for them to make hex totems a little bit more consistent and just ensure they don't go down instantly, because it is really annoying when you bring a hex totem and within the first few seconds it has instantly gone down. So yeah, I do think this is a good idea. Another thing they could do as well, instead of it being blocked until the first gen's done, maybe like a period of time, like a minute or so, that way it isn't tied to gen. So yeah, that's something else they could do. But yeah, for the first one, I definitely do agree with this, and it's something I could definitely get on board with. So the next one, I don't know that this is a hot take, but I think Trapper is really strong. He's just really difficult with a really high skill ceiling. I definitely disagree with this. I think Trapper is one of the worst killers in the game. They have tried to buff him a couple of times, but I don't know. I think they just went the completely wrong way around it, because they made it so he gets haste when setting down a trap, which basically encourages you to bring your traps to the survivors, which is the complete wrong way to play Trapper in my opinion. I also wouldn't say he has a high skill ceiling. I'd say it's pretty low. I mean, the only thing you really have to learn is where to put your traps on certain maps. Other than that, he's just a basic M1 killer. Pretty much the most basic killer in the game, or, you know, one of the most basic killers in the game. And I think that's why a lot of people really don't like Trapper. He's just kind of boring. He doesn't really have anything to him. But yeah, I do disagree with this hot take. So the next one reads, my hot take, probably the biggest here. As a killer main, RPD is my favorite map, and I'm not even being biased because I haven't played a single Resident Evil game before. So this is another one I disagree with. I don't know. I'm not a fan of RPD. I think it's one of the worst maps potentially. Certainly one of, if not the worst indoor map. I don't know. I'm just not a fan of it. It is a little bit better than what it used to be, when it used to be just like one entirely like huge map. They did make it a little bit better with the east and west, how they've like split it up into two separate maps, but still, it's just not great. It is one of the worst in my opinion. And I have personally played, and I'm a really big fan of Resident Evil, so yeah, it's nice to have like a representation of a Resident Evil map in the game, but I don't know. I don't think it translated well into DBD. I don't really think it's a good map at all. Outside of a couple of decent palettes and windows, there's not really many loops on it. The map is just still too big. I mean, like I said, it is a lot better than what it was before, when it was just one huge map, but even still, the problems aren't as bad as they used to be, but they are still there. So yeah, this is one I disagree with. I definitely think RPD is one of the worst maps in the game. So the next one says that Singularity can be one of the best killers in the game when played well. Now this is interesting because it was put up a month ago, so this was before the Singularity buff. So if we're going back then, my opinion, a month ago, I would probably disagree with this, but now that Singularity has been buffed, I would probably agree with it. I don't feel too strongly about this because I haven't played him myself yet, and I've not played against him much, but the handful of times I have played against him, he does seem much better now, and I will definitely get around to playing him myself a bit more. But yeah, even though they've buffed him, he's a killer that you still don't really see much. Like I said, I've seen him a few times, like a handful of times, and he does seem better than what he was, especially on the PTB. When I played against him on the PTB, I really struggled playing against him. He also reminds me a little bit of Leatherface in the sense that he can just burn through pallets once he gets a survivor infected and keeps teleporting to them, gets in his overclocked mode, just burns through them pallets, has the potential to end chases really quickly as well. Like I said, with the overclocked mode, breaking pallets pretty much instantly and vaulting windows pretty much instantly, as well as, you know, being able to break them when he's like teleporting through them. So yeah, I would say if we're going back a month, disagree, but now that he has been buffed and everything, and I do think he's a lot better, I would agree with this statement. So the next one reads that this is a very hot take, but I think Wicked is a better perk than Deliverance. Reason being that it grants you a free unhook in the basement, but even if you don't get hooked in the basement, you still get value with the aura reading, whereas Deliverance, you don't get value if you're the first hook, and even if you do pull Deliverance off, you won't be able to use this perk again. I mean, it depends. If you do get put in the basement, obviously it would be better, because then it's a free unhook. You don't have to get the safe unhook rescue beforehand, and then you do have the aura reading ability, which is a nice bonus to have, although I don't think it's a game changer or anything like that. Like I said, it is a nice bonus, but overall I would definitely disagree. I think it can potentially be better if you do get put on the hook in basement, but 9 times out of 10 that's not going to happen. That's going to be a pretty rare scenario for the most part. So I think Deliverance just has a lot more to offer, since you can unhook from anywhere pretty much. The only downside to Deliverance is that you do have to perform a safe hook rescue before you get put on the hook to activate it, and there is like a Deliverance curse, isn't there, where you do get put on the hook first whenever you're using Deliverance. But I think even with that in mind, and even though Wicked has the aura reading effect, I just think that Deliverance is a lot more consistent overall, and I think Deliverance can even save games as well. Obviously Wicked also could, but you'd need to get put in the basement, and while the aura reading thing is nice to have, like I said, it's not really a game changer. It doesn't do anything crazy. So yeah, I would disagree with this one. I think Deliverance is much better than Wicked. The next hot take is that Sprint Burst should be able to be used when you want it to be used. Basically, you can run without the perk activating, and when you want to activate, you press E. There is also another one. I'll react to the other one after this. So no, I definitely disagree with this one. I think if they made it like Sprint Burst being able to activate on command whenever you want, I think it would be insane insanely strong, way too strong. Even now, I definitely think sprint burst is by far the strongest exhaustion perk, so if they did that, like, you can imagine how good it would be. Everyone would be using it. There'd be no reason to use anything else because, for example, lithe or balanced landing, you have to perform an action to activate it. So lithe, for example, you have to vault a window. Balanced landing, you have to drop down from distance. So these are little requirements that you have to do to meet it. Sprint burst is obviously that you have to 99 it. So I think if you could just use it whenever you want, just press an E or whatever, I think it would just make it way too overpowered and it would have no downside whatsoever. So yeah, disagree with that first one. The second one though says that more survivors should have voice lines outside of the trials and that they want Adam, Jonah, Ace to have voice lines specifically. So this is one that I definitely agree with. This is something I've said before in my videos, how I think they should do more voice lines for not only survivors but killers as well, and it is something they've been doing a lot more recently. But yeah, not only that, but going back and adding voice lines to some of the older survivors and maybe even some of the older killers as well. I think that would be really good. If they have the rights to do it, if they get the license back, maybe they could have voice lines for Freddy. How good would that be? That'd be hilarious if they could do that. And maybe have the skin for the original Freddy as well, so it kind of makes sense. But yeah, definitely disagree with the sprint burst hot take, but the second one with voice lines, yeah, I'd definitely be on board with that. I would love more voice lines for the survivors, and like I said, even the killers as well. So yeah, I do agree with the second one. The next hot take ties in a little bit with the previous one, and this one says that exhaustion perks should have tokens and regain a token based on the chase duration. This is an interesting one. I don't think I've ever heard of this concept before, but the main problem with this is that people that aren't good in chase are going to really struggle to get good in chase, and exhaustion perks really help out, especially for newer players. It just extends the chase when you're not really good at looping, you don't really know what you're doing. So it's an interesting one. I'm not entirely sure. I probably would slightly disagree with it, but I wouldn't be completely against the idea. Like I said, I do probably think it's a bad idea, but it's definitely an interesting one. I've never heard this before, so yeah, I'd probably say I slightly disagree with it. Let me know what you guys think of this one though. I think this one is a really interesting concept, but like I said, yeah, I think it would just be too difficult for the newer players and people that aren't too comfortable with looping. My controversial take: Wesker is extremely unfun to play against. His infection mechanic needs complete rework. He basically gets a free down eventually and it encourages tunneling. Now, the last bit I kind of agree with, it encourages tunneling. Overall though, I personally wouldn't say he's really unfun to play against. I don't think he's like extremely fun to play against either, but yeah, for me, somewhere in the middle. I used to hate playing against him when it was like every other game, when he was like by far the most popular killer, but that definitely doesn't seem to be the case anymore, at least not for me personally anyway. I also wouldn't say that he gets a completely free down eventually. I can kind of see where you're coming from with that, because once you're hindered, it can be very difficult. But other killers have ways to make you hindered as well, like Skull Merchant or even Freddy, for example. And usually after he's commit that much time into getting someone infected, that means the chase has gone on for a while, providing he didn't find someone that was already infected, of course. But I would disagree with this one. I don't think his infection needs a complete rework or anything like that. Although, like I said, I can kind of see where you're coming from with the free down and encouraging tunneling. The next hot take reads: the next killer they should add to the roster will have to be the shark from Jaws, with the survivor being Brody. Now, I've never seen the Jaws movie personally, not yet anyway. I know it's a classic. I should probably get around to watching it at some point, but as of right now, I've never seen it. I'm all for new licenses coming to the game, even like licenses I'm not familiar with. For example, Dungeons and Dragons, I've never played that. And even Castlevania, I've not really had much experience with Castlevania. But yeah, I do think the more licenses we have in the game, the better. But Jaws would be a weird one, wouldn't it? Because obviously he's a shark in water. They'd have to find a way to add water into the game. I think that would be really difficult to do. They'd have to add a swimming mechanic. I think it would just be way too complicated for them to do. Maybe it's something they could do in the distant future after we've got, you know, tons of other licenses and they've started adding newer features to the game. But yeah, definitely not for the next killer. The next hot take says that Vittorio and Knight have the best written lore in the whole game. I don't really know a whole lot about lore, so you guys are going to have to help me out with this in the comments down below. The next one reads: my controversial take: wearing comp outfits, really dark clothes, is extremely unfun. Just wear funny and colorful clothes. It's not a comp game. I do agree, like, just wear whatever cosmetics you want. I do personally prefer the really like over the top and bright outfits. The reason being so I can stand out and take chase more, and also they're just better to look at and they also look better in thumbnails and stuff like that. But I think it depends on the play style. I mean, if someone's not comfortable with looping and they want to play stealthy, I think they should probably just wear darker outfits, and that'll help them prevent being spotted by the killer as much. But yeah, this is one I don't really feel too strongly about. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. My hot take is that Nurse is not the best killer since survivors can pre-run and play stealthy, and not given a line of sight since she is slower than a regular survivor. Definitely disagree with this. I don't think many people will agree with this one, to be honest. I think it's pretty much widely agreed upon that Nurse is by far the best killer in the game. So yeah, I know you can, like, you know, block line of sight, try and hold forward and stuff like that, but it's only going to get you so far. There's not really a whole lot you can do against a really good Nurse. So yeah, for that reason, definitely disagree with this one. And moving on to our final hot take, and this one reads: just like the killer, survivors shouldn't be able to swap characters or items in the lobby. This one I wouldn't really mind either way. I have had an idea for a while that they could make it so the killer can't see the survivors, so they don't know what they've got. So the same way the survivors don't know what the killer is that they're playing against, maybe it should just be like a grayed out silhouette and you can't can't really see what survivors you're going against, what items they have and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't really mind too much either way. It can be annoying. For me, it's more annoying when I'm playing survivor and I see, like, you know, 2 or 3 of my teammates last second switch and then they've all got flashlights. A lot of you guys know I hate playing survivor when all my teammates have got flashlights. So yeah, I think for me, it's more annoying when I play survivor. I don't really mind too much when they do that when I'm playing killer personally. But yeah, this is one I could get on board with. Like I said, I don't feel too strongly about this one, but let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. And like I said, be sure to let me know your hot takes in the comments down below as well, and I will react to some of them in a future video like this. And yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Thank you all for watching, and as always, I will see you all in the next one.